Tree Country 1330 WTRE. It is 10:05 on this Wednesday morning. It's not raining. Thank you. It's not raining, but it's going to rain tonight. So we have got Teresa Hooten with us, the director of the Arc of Decatur County, and it is Disability Awareness Month.
It is. March is always National Disability Awareness Month. And so, again, we come around and that's what we want to do. We just want to make everyone aware of what's happening here in our county as far as how we support and advocate for those who have intellectual and developmental disabilities.
You had a busy February, but March is looking to be the same.
I know. I'm very busy. I'm so excited.
Big ribbon cutting yesterday.
Oh, it was. And I love that Don Lowe thought, we could possibly get outside for just a little bit of the
just
ribbon.
A quick snip.
But it didn't happen. So in my little 300 square foot office, it was pleasant. There were over 25, maybe 30 people in there. And yeah, it was really nice, and I'm very appreciative of the chamber for doing that and for anyone that came yesterday in the rain to support us.
So let's talk a little bit about what the Arc of Decatur County does.
Well, the Arc of Decatur County has been around for many years, but what we actually do, we are an advocacy chapter. So there are chapters in the state that can be either an advocacy chapter, which supports and advocates on behalf of individuals with disabilities, or there are service provider chapters, and those service provider chapters, the closest one that we have would be New Horizons. So they have their own ARC, but they also provide services such as day programs and events and all that kind of stuff. So we actually have always just been a advocacy chapter, and so it's not been until we got our little office in August that I think people were aware that we were not related to Decatur Industries, who is a service provider for individuals with disabilities.
I think too it's important. If you live in Decatur County, you know Morgan Hooten.
Oh yes,
everybody does.
Yes, I've lost all identity 35 years ago. When she was born, I'm just Morgan's mom, and but yes, she definitely is. I just didn't treat her any different.
Well, and you bring to, I think this is important, you bring to this role that experience. You've lived what you're trying to help people with.
Yes. And I think what has just warmed my heart since August, not knowing that I was there up until yesterday, and then knowing that we are not Decatur Industries and that we are an advocacy chapter, that I had some young parents come to one of our board meetings early on and say, I think it would be nice if we did have a brick and mortar building, just because what if somebody just got the diagnosis that there's something wrong with their child and they don't know what is wrong, but yet they just need someone to talk to. And they're not going to come to my house and my office because that's not what you would want them to do. And so I've had 3 parents. I've had a grandparent, because there are those that are raising their grandchildren, but I've also had just 2 parents that I've almost felt like I didn't really give them anything. They didn't really ask for resources, but they sat there and they talked for 2 hours, and that's all they needed. Mm-hmm. They just needed to tell somebody their story. And I think that's what I really enjoy about our community, and I call it our art community, because even though there are gazillion types of diagnoses and we have all different stages in our children, we all have that common bond that we all have a story, and we need somebody to listen and support whatever that is. Yeah.
And it comes in all different, huge variety.
Some
people may need a huge amount of support, while others don't. But
right.
it's the I think it's the emotional support too.
Right.
That is a big part of it.
They asked me yesterday, what do I do? And I said, well, I think I'm a lot of lip service. I can talk a lot and I can give you a lot of information, but we also have to advocate on behalf of ourselves, and parents need to advocate on behalf of their children.
So as you have gotten into this role, it's been exciting for us to see a lot of different programming and activities to work towards that inclusion part. Like that's the biggest piece, is the inclusion of everybody. We're all the same.
Right. And I think, again, labels don't define us. Human connection is what defines us. And I think that's building relationships with our children, with our adults, with our community. I think Greensburg's the best place to have that happen. And they've been very supportive of all of our individuals. And I think for those who have younger children, You know, how is the community going to react when they get older? Will they have a place? Will they belong? And I say definitely yes. I said, yeah, Greensburg is definitely, and we've had wonderful people pave that path for us. And so that's just another thing. You know, I want to be able to make sure that those parents understand that this community is giving and accepting of our individuals.
I know you're just Morgan's mom now, but
Yes.
Morgan, though, I mean, she's an adult and she works. So kind of give us a little update on where Miss Morgan's at and what she's doing.
Well, Miss Morgan, of course, just the way the government has worked with all the waivers and the housing and all of that, we have decided that there is not a place for her to live. She would not be happy living with several roommates, and so we've just converted the front part of our house, 3 rooms, her bedroom and 2 other rooms, and that is what she says is her apartment. That is her
okay.
apartment. So she lives in her apartment, but she does come to our table for all meals. And so
that's a good deal. I think I need to sign up for something like that.
And so then she had asked her dad, because it's an old home and we have old doors, you know, she needed a door for her apartment. So Kenny put a door on her apartment, and then leads into my dining room, and then she had to have a Ring camera because, you know, she needs to know who's coming to her apartment. And then my friend gave her a welcome mat that said blessings coming in and blessings going out, and a wreath for her door. So she truly believes that she has her own apartment. And I asked her today is her day off. She said, I'll be in my apartment all day today.
Okay.
So very good. So then so she's there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then Thursdays and Fridays she works at Aspen Place. She'll be there 3 years in July as an activity associate. And she's very blessed to be there, and they are blessed by her.
And I think that's right there is living proof that you just have to love them up and
send them out.
That's right. You can be successful no matter what.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You do have some programming coming up
I
here
do.
soon.
Just a few things. We talked about us being an advocacy chapter, and you know, there are resources. We have support services. We hope to start a self-advocate group. Self-advocates are statewide, and those individuals, I mean, we want to start even in elementary, that individuals need to advocate for themselves. So I would like to start the youth one again, and so if anybody is wanting to lead that, we can get you all the information from the state on self-advocacy. Tomorrow night, though, the library has been wonderful in partnering with us, and we're going to have a Everyone Belongs movie night, and it's going to be just relax, come as you go. They're going to have little short videos. We're going to have hot dogs. They're going to make popcorn, and it's at the library in the large room from 5:30 to 7:30. And if you could call me today and let me know if you're coming so that I can get the right amount of hot dogs, then that would be great.
Don't want to run out of hot dogs.
I don't want to run out of hot dogs. And then one other thing that we've never talked about before is we have actually it's just called a mini grant program. It's called A Little Help from My Friends. And it is, do you have a goal? Do you have a need? Do you have a dream that you could just use a little help with? And so we're offering small grants to support our members, and we would like for you to be a functioning member, from adaptive equipment to enrichment activities. And current members can apply, individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities can apply, families or caregivers can apply. And so what's available, it's mini grants up to $250. Those funds can be used for sensory tools or adaptive devices, educational or recreational opportunities, transportation or accessibility needs. And for you to apply, you need to complete this the grant form, and if you want to stop by my office at 355 South Michigan Avenue, Suite 2, I can get you a copy of that. And then it's a short grant, and then the board will approve and see how we can help you if you have a need.
Very cool idea.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, you brought along with you a guest today.
I did. I have one of our newest community members, Jennifer, prefers to be called Jen Ryle, and she has a little son named Emmett who is in our Greensburg Elementary Preschool. And
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
Yep.
So Jen came to us with her wonderful, passionate project called Emmett's Sense of Wonder, and I will let Jen tell you about that.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you here.
I know.
So I'm doing sensory kits for other parents to be able to access some sensory items and the products, to find what fits their sensory toolbox and, to help their children. So Emmett has sensory processing disorder.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about sensory, because some people don't really understand the concept of sensory. So, and I know you've had to work greatly with Emmett to get there, but tell us what sensory, what is the benefit of sensory?
So with sensory processing disorder, it's where they have like a difference in the way that they see all the senses.
Yeah,
in a sense,
see, smell,
so like
taste, feel.
Things, a smell can be overwhelming. It can be underwhelming. Like sounds, like they all could potentially respond to those differently. And sensory processing disorder is common with autism, and so a lot of these kids they kind of branch off from that. So I have like a calming, a wait, communication, quiet time, seating, weighted vest, music, and American Sign Language so far are the ones that we're working on. So that way they can try these tools before they purchase them and not have, excess things sitting around like we did. And it's just a lot to try to sort through and figure out, their needs, like what is too loud, are things too smelly, or, foods, like, with particular foods, and it's just a lot. I mean,
it's even texture, texture,
Yeah.
like thinking about eating foods and textures.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge part of sensory.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So can of tell us about what the things are in your sensory kit?
So I brought the autism kit just to
I love it.
Because, obvious reasons. But so each kit will have just books, like certain books pertaining to that. So I brought a couple, just Dragon and His Friend. It's a dragon that has autism. And then Neurodivergent Ninja.
Oh, how fun.
And there's
I
some
love names.
others I'm still working on getting. And then I did like a touch and feel for the sensory parts. And then just some other odds and ends, spiky sensory balls, little magnetic alphabet thing that they can trace. Nice. And, just some different tools and activities to engage and try to utilize the things the best you can.
So tell me what prompted you to start the sensory bags?
Because I've purchased so many different items trying to find what he responded to, and he's been diagnosed with pica. So then we had to, repurchase.
Now tell us what pica is.
Pica is an eating disorder where they eat non-food items.
Okay.
I'll tell you a little story. We went yesterday to get a haircut, and as she's cutting his hair, he's grabbing it and he's eating his hair.
The hair.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but he doesn't like food, so we're picky with our food. So, figuring out things that he could play with that he wasn't biting the ears off of, the little toys, and the hands and the feet and stuff like that. So then we had to redo all of that. So I just feel like they can check these out for 21 days and kind of get an idea of how they want to feed those needs. And
so if someone wants to obtain access to a kit, how do they go about that?
so these kits that I'm doing right now are going to be in the Greensburg Public Library, and they can be checked out for 21 days. And I believe they're adding a little area where they can do different things like the sensory kits and
Nice.
some for the older age groups, because mine are more age-based for up to 5, because that's my experience. Emmett's only 5 years old, so that's the experience I have. I mean, I know some stuff for when he gets older, but it's a learning experience for me too. So if anybody wants to see older aged, kids, middle school, high school, adult, I'd be willing to do it. I just need some feedback and suggestions, and
That's what we had
something
talked
that
about
we
at the autism support group that we had last Thursday at the YMCA. They partnered with us, and we had that there. And Jen mentioned that. And so, if there are older individuals with autism or on the spectrum, Jen would love to know, what is it that your adult or your younger adult has that's in those departments? What helps calm them? What helps stimulate them? What helps with their, with just their sensory of processing or whatever? And so definitely Jen will be able to, then we can research and we can make bags for the older adults or school age children. But right now, this is her forte, is helping the younger population.
Getting started.
I think too, this goes back to support that we were talking about earlier. It's a simple kit, right, that you've put together, but for a mom that doesn't know what to do, it's a huge tool.
Right. I wish we'd have had something to help me through Emmett's needs and
it's very
things like
expensive.
that. And
I think
it is very expensive, and that's a lot of it too.
You can't just buy.
you wrap up.
Yeah, you can't just buy. Even with Morgan with her Down syndrome early on, 35 years ago, I always wanted to buy a toy that I knew would benefit her, as far as, is it cause and effect? Is it sensory? We had the whole sensory thing too. Is it the sound? Is it, the patterns? And so every toy I bought was not cheap.
Right.
And then, it was like, oh, well, that didn't work so well. But if somebody knows, but it may not work for any, your children may.
And that's the, with the spectrum, that's
right.
how they're all so different. Like, Emmett can tolerate loud noises, but not large groups, where, some children just can't do the loud sounds. And,
right.
He's a sensory seeker. So he looks for, we have
Things
a crash
he's
pad
a
that he likes to
touchy-feely,
jump into off of this thing he climbs on. And so, he's big into spinning and jumping.
He needs the input.
He does, yes. So that's, it took me a while to find that input to give him. And so, and not only just for the sensory input either, but like for the struggles, like I want to do one with sleep, because that's an issue that we have, is sleep or lack of. So, like with some weighted blankets and some different books on sleep, and I'm also putting in each kit a resource folder that will talk about why these are beneficial for not just an autistic child. These are not just for autistic children.
Yeah. Right.
That's what prompted me to do it, is Emmett. And so I think anybody can enjoy these. Any child could enjoy these and learn from them, especially the autism one for awareness. If you want to teach your child about autism, well, here's some books that can explain it. So it's kind of a lot of things, I think, that can be gained from this.
Let's talk about Emmett for a minute.
Okay.
So kind of tell us Emmett's story.
So Emmett was diagnosed when he was 2. We actually seen you. We had no idea. I knew there were things going on with him, but I wasn't 100% sure. He was my 5th, so I knew there was something. And so we came for his appointment, and I received a phone call that he had not passed an autism screen. And I had a lot of questions because I wasn't aware that this was something they'd done, probably because my other kids did okay with it. Well, he wasn't reaching his milestone. So 6 months later, we got into a psychologist, I don't know, she's no longer around, in Batesville, and we did a 2.5-hour meeting and playtime, and with toys from the 80s and all the things that he wasn't interested in, of course. And we got the diagnosis, and then after that came a PICA diagnosis, ADHD, sensory processing disorder, all the things. So now we see a developmental pediatrician that's helping us maneuver through all of these, and he's doing great. He's in kindergarten at Greensburg Elementary, and he goes 4 hours and 20 minutes a day, and he loves it.
Yeah, it's just good.
As a parent, being handed one diagnosis after another,
Overwhelming.
that has to be a lot.
It is.
As you've kind of maneuvered your way, you and Teresa have made a great connection.
Yes, thankful for that. Very thankful.
But finding those resources, though, that has to be a challenge.
It is. It's the biggest challenge, and that's what her and I talk about a lot. They're there. They're just not given to us unless you dig and ask, and that's where.
Yeah, and I think that's part of just the Arc of Decatur County. It's not just focusing on a particular disability. We all have something, but I just felt like there are more individuals and children on the spectrum, adults and children on the spectrum, that have initiated the fact that they wanted to have a little community within our community, because they do need to share these resources. Parents are like, where do you take your child for the dentist? Who handles those individuals the best? What do you do? Is there day camps that we can send them to so mom and dad can have a break? I don't know all those answers, but this group of individuals that have children that are on the spectrum and themselves on the spectrum, they can collaborate and share all that information, so that, again, if you're a parent brand new and you just get that a parent of a brand new child, that has something, maybe it is autistic related, then you need to reach out to us. We can get you to the support group that you need, and then we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I just think that's for Jen to be able to, it's a lot of work raising Emmett and then trying to help others. But I think that's where you feel like you're doing something for them, because I didn't have it, so let's make the path just a little bit easier. And that's just the community part of it, which I think when we can all be under that same umbrella and work together, it's great. And the library's been very gracious to her that those kits, we're going to get those kits on their shelf, and you can check them out, and the library will clean them and put them back in that bag. Nice. And besides the resource, what else did you say was in there to help the parents? Oh, there's a price list.
Yes, so there'll be like, I'll have everything listed in each kit, what I paid for it on Amazon, or what, because the community jumped straight. I posted on Facebook my idea, and in probably a week and a half, 2 weeks, I had 3 totes full of sensory items that this community had ordered off of Amazon.
Which is amazing.
And then the Arc was very generous in helping and get the sensory kits completed, and then I've received other donations from just monetary donations from individuals in the community that have enabled me to add extra kits to my idea. So then if other people want them, they can be like, oh, well, we have all these options, so maybe the school would want that autism kit's really neat, we can get a kit to their school.
And the kits are, unfortunately, they're not cheap.
No.
I mean, they're great resources, but they're not cheap.
So what was the average, probably?
So about $150 to $170 was about the average for a kit, just for the items. And then I purchased the bags, and then with my little business, I made the little labels, so they'll all have a matching label to I made brochures and everything for each kit that to take around, to let people know what I'm doing and everything else. So we'll have that, and I'm going to put some information on the Arc in there, so that so people can have that in there to reach out, and then just some information, like I said, on how these things will benefit, and different ideas of using them for play and in home therapy with your child, because you're always doing therapy play with your
it's always productive therapy.
Yeah. When Emmett started school, that had to be a little overwhelming. Not knowing what you were stepping into, since you had 4 other kids that
went right through
the
system.
School. So as he's come in and he's now in kindergarten, let's talk about how he's been included in school and how you start to see friends and all of those kind of things happen.
So friends aren't really, he's a loner. He likes to be, even at our house on Christmas, he's sitting in the back in another room while we're out doing our thing. It's just the groups. It's, like I said, the large groups. But he does well. I take him in at 10, so he gets in a little bit later. They meet me at a door. They come out, and they walk him in the side door. We don't have to go through the whole school. And he's thriving. I mean, we're working on an AAC device. That's still kind of iffy. He's not real fun. But I've learned his communication, so it's just easier for both of us. We've done that for so long, and the school has picked up on
Does he sign?
His cues. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
So how do you communicate with him?
He drags me to where
okay.
And then he'll
pull a point,
and then I know that he does this when he needs something done. So if he wants something opened, he'll take it.
So he has his own.
He has his own. Yeah, sure. We've kind of figured. And I can say all done. I can do little things, and he picks up, but he doesn't respond.
Sure.
Back to that, but they went to a petting zoo on a field trip, and he loved it. They had a little petting zoo.
Oh, good.
And whatever, and he loved it. So he gets included. He does get
good
included in all the things.
Let's talk about him being a sibling, because he's got 4 older siblings. So what's that been like for all of you as a family? Because
that's been a huge adjustment, a very big adjustment. So currently, so he was a little later in life child. So his siblings are quite a bit older. It's only him, I, and my 18-year-old son currently living at home. So he doesn't see them all. He's an uncle, so he does get to see his nieces and nephews and such. But he just doesn't have. He'll hug their legs or kind of acknowledge them, but he doesn't. He doesn't show much emotion and those things. And they're great. They have all surprised me. I just thought this was going to be hard. I don't know, maybe guilt it was my guilt feeling like I'm doing all these things for Emmett, and maybe they feel like I've kind of left them behind or whatever, but they've just all been nothing but supportive and great for him. They're all probably listening right now. I don't know. It's great.
But you've given, and we talk about this with all of our individuals with disabilities, or even just your regular children, you give them all the things that will make them successful. You have raised all your other children just the best you could. You've given them all the resources. And we talk about in our little community that, we just need to give our individuals the tools they need in their toolbox. The tools. These are Emmett's tools. And so your family looks at Emmett as, Mom needs to give Emmett all these tools so that he can have the best life ever. And that's what you want for any of your children. And so it's just a different way of doing it. And you, like, if anybody raised all 6 of your kids the same way, well, I don't know how you did that.
Right.
Everybody had to have a different set of tools.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is what we have. And I think, again, education, we talked about yesterday, how the community can help the ARC. How can you help? There is nothing better than for us to sit here and tell you our stories of
Absolutely.
our children. And so don't be afraid if you see Jen and you see Emmett, running all around, not communicating with you, ask Jen, does he, can he, would he, how is it? Be curious. We're very much welcoming into all those questions, because I think educating our community on our children, on the adults, how they act, how they react, I think is just the best way to be united,
I come from a different perspective, obviously, in the healthcare world. And when you look at that, I tell parents, because they're like, well, they don't want to eat this. They don't want to. Well, I don't either. I don't like broccoli.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want to eat it, and they just can't always tell you that they don't like it. They don't want to do it. And so you have to, and I have grumpy days. So Emmett can have a grumpy day.
Exactly.
That's not, and so I think finding that, it's not even acceptance, but just the understanding that they still have a little mind.
That's
and
key.
they
that is
have,
like the one major, like, you have to get to their level in some sense,
Sure.
and they're teaching you ultimately,
all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so learning from Emmett, it's like, okay, so I'll make our normal meal, and he'll check it out and touch it and smell it or whatever, and then he's just so then I know, okay, well, let's go to our 5 foods he'll eat. But I try to offer him, and
But
one
you're
day he did
showing
eat
him-
pizza. So
Yeah, but you're showing him, you're introducing him what we so-called normal. It's not really normal. It's just how your life is. If he doesn't like it, if I
doesn't
don't like it, I don't
that's
like
why
it.
they're called safe foods. We'll get there. And the food, his diet is the least of my concerns. As long as he's eating. Like I used to be. We had to have all the 5 food, all the whatever, and each thing. And
your pediatrician seems to be, those that are aware of those children on the spectrum are obviously, they know that part of eating is part of their disability. So unless they're giving you a 911, then you're doing a fine job. They're not starving. They only eat certain things every day. I could probably confess that there are certain things that I do every day too. We all have our quirks.
Right. We're human.
We're all human. That's exactly it.
So as you continue on the sensory bags, what's this look like for the future? Tell us what's Jen's end result for this.
Hopefully to have every library that's interested, all in Indiana, with sensory kits. I don't see why, that's not something that we could see happen with the, there's more diagnosis every day. That with the awareness, people are becoming more comfortable with taking their children, and so I think that these would be something to help also those that just maybe scared to go get a diagnosis. Like, oh well, this is common. These are you can go get kits, and I don't know.
You have those resources.
It's tools.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
it
tools.
just takes tools.
Yeah.
I think, libraries, obviously schools are incorporating more sensory rooms. YMCAs have learning centers, early learning centers, private schools. If grandma and grandpa want to buy a sensory bag for their homeschool grandchild, here's $150. We can put you together a bag so you even have that bag at your home. I just think the possibilities are endless, because you've already figured out what really would work for this particular age group. But I think too, as being a part of the ARC and working together, I can see that maybe we need a few older ones that go into the high school.
Maybe some life skills.
Things,
That's what
you know, when you get older. So, you know, we don't know. We need
exciting is what it is.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
And this is no profit to me. This is all done, like I said, through the community engagement and with the help of the ARC. And, you know, so this isn't, you know, it's not a job.
This is not a job. It's not a moneymaker.
It is a job. Yeah. But I'm not getting paid to do it. I'm enjoying it. It has made me feel like, you know, I'm doing great things for Emmett, where I was kind of just stuck. I did not know what to do.
Sure.
And I met her.
Yeah.
what an investment though into the future. And you know, Emmett has obviously taught you a lot. He's taught all of us a lot.
Yes.
And I could name, you know, I could name child after child that has taught me lessons. But you're able to take what he has taught you and really you pay it forward is what you're doing at this point.
This is all because of Emmett.
It's exciting.
It is very exciting.
So,
thank you.
So as we continue with the ARC and we look at resources, if they want to get in touch with the ARC and look, you know, they need a little help, they need some support, how do we go about doing that?
Well, you can call me at the office, 812-900-3789. We do have a website, and that's arcofdecaturcounty.org. And if you want to shoot me an email, it's arcofdecaturcountyin@gmail.com. I'm in the office Monday from 8 to noon, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 3 to 5. But if there's, you know, a time frame that you need for me to meet you, or some place that you need for me to meet you, I can do that. Just give me a call and we can get together, which would be great. Yeah, which would be great.
Yeah. And I know when Jen came in, she said, I'm getting a backbone, I'm getting tougher skin, but she's doing it. But tell us how you've kind of formed this relationship with Teresa, and she's taught you some lessons too.
How did that happen?
I showed up by myself at the very first autism support group
that's
meeting
right.
at the Learning Center, and
Yes.
I was trying to sit all by myself in the back, and she said, "Nope, you're going to sit right up here up front by me," and it all started from there.
Yeah.
And then she made me talk in front of them last week at the pizza party about my sensory kids, and so she's amazing. I mean, to advocate and do all the things that she does. I asked her the other day if she ever takes time for herself, because she's always doing for everyone.
Yes, but again, I think there's just something, you know, when I revert back to 35 years ago when I was dealt Miss Morgan, you know, and again, I had no other children before. I had a miscarriage before and a miscarriage after, so I had Miss Morgan, and you get a child that you didn't really expect. It's not a child that you ordered. And so then you need, I just thought, I need somebody to help me. I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do with this kid, this baby. I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't know how to fix her. I can't fix her. Someone said, well, you're not going to fix her. So, you know, we talk about that, and I feel like those who have done the path before us, you know, Joy Jones, bless her heart. I just talked about her yesterday. You know, she came to my home. She had Trent, who just passed away last year at 69. That is just a baby girl. She's a baby girl, and she has Down syndrome. Emmett is a little boy, and he has autism. You know, that label, he's a little boy and she's a little girl. But they was along beside me to tell me that it's not going to be easy. We got to work really hard. We don't know how smart they are. We don't really know how dumb they are. We don't know what they're going to end up like. So you just have to do what you can do. And they gave me the tools to put in my toolbox, held my hand, listened to me. But then I think as we get older, and when that acceptance comes, and it doesn't come right away, and I don't want to sound very, I don't know what the word is, but I'm very truthful that when you don't get something that you want, it takes a while to grieve. And then you have to say, okay, really, it's not about me. It's about that little girl. It's about that little boy. And we need to make them the best that they can be. And so then I just feel like ever since then, I want to do that for somebody else. And I think it's a healing of mourning for us, that Jen would like for Emmett to be something bigger, something better. What we don't know what he's going to be, but for her to be able to put these together and say, this makes me feel good because this is going to make a new mommy feel better, and like she doesn't have to think, or a new daddy, or a set of grandparents. I think it's just healing. Every time we do something for somebody else, I think we know that our purpose is here and it is right.
And putting into the future, because you learn that as everybody, another parent learns another skill or another trick or whatever it may be. But just putting that out there it's a huge asset to this community.
Sure. And I don't, a lot of times I don't know. I just think the community of ARC members, it's not just writing the $15 check to be a member. I mean, numbers are good when you go to the State House, when you have to advocate on behalf of them for their rights and their laws and all the stuff that's coming down the pike that some of these folks have no clue yet. But when you are a part of this community, it's like a village. Like, we don't look at any of our children any better, any worse. They're all just our community, and we just need to make sure that they have the best resources and that they can be the best they can be, and we need to help the teachers. They don't know our kids either. I mean, they're all floundering in the schoolrooms with all of these new diagnoses, and they need resources too. So if we can help them while our children are at school, and we give them that time with our children, then that's what we want to do as a community. And as we get older, and our children get older and they don't really want to be around mom and dad anymore, then we have older activities. We have the Connections Club, which are individuals with disabilities. They took upon themselves to say, you know what, we want to go out and have our own fun time. So they start with a pool party, and then they plan a movie, or they go up to the beach. That's their life. That's their best life, because that's what they wanted to do with their peers. And that's what we hope and pray for Mr. Emmett. He's going to grow up, and he's going to have a village around him, and he's going to make friends. He's going to be able to do things. And when I'm done with the ARC, somebody else is going to come along, and it's just it's community. And I think our community is so supportive of all of our individuals that I'm blessed to be here.
I think that we look at normalizing, right? So we're normalizing that this is today. This is where we're at today. And I find my nephew's he's in 4th grade, and he had it's kind of a squishy pulley thing that is a sensory thing that you see. And I'm like, where'd you get that? And he's like, well, so and so at school has one, and then somebody else got one. And so, like, yes, this one kid who really needs that sensory input carries that around. But now his friends around him have become a trend.
Yes.
And it's all cool, right? Because now everybody has one. And I think the more that we push those kind of things, the better reception we're just going to continue to see.
Yeah, and I think even early on when Morgan was in preschool, or maybe she was in kindergarten, I can't remember, but she needed some writing devices to help her get her little fingers where they needed to be. And the teacher was not real happy about the fact that Morgan had something different than everybody else. And I said, well, I'll just buy everybody the same little tool, and I bet they'll all be able to write a little bit better. So, as far as teachers in school, if you find that sensory for little Johnny that's helping him sit still and be quiet in the included classroom, and you still have, Susie over here that supposedly doesn't have a label at all, and she's cranky and out of control, give her something, and that way everybody's like, it's not abnormal. It's just like, here, we'll just take it.
They don't have to just be for
exactly.
Yeah. And I think utilized. You talk about sensory, and yes, they may need more input. Emmett likes that impact, and everybody has. But in a given day, if you don't have a label, and you stop and think about the sensory that you need. Yes. That I can't sit still. I'm the first one to admit it. I have to sit on my foot if I'm going to concentrate. It's the pressure. I can tell you that. Yeah. Everybody needs that sensory input. So although we say, okay, we know that with this label you need extra, we're still every day, we all need sensory.
Yeah. And I think it seems like in our world now, it seems like we are really all overstimulated.
Oh, yeah.
We are all overstimulated. I imagine probably everybody is on the spectrum somewhere. And, then when you try to take that and put it into a school setting, I mean, I can't imagine how teachers can rally all of them up when they all have something different, and so whatever we can do to help them with those students in their classroom to be the best that they can be. Don't try to put them in a box. Don't try to say, well, they have to be here. They have to sit here for 20 minutes. No, if they can't sit for 20 minutes, let's find where can they sit? Do they need to sit on their own little sensory couch? Do they need to sit on a bouncy ball? I mean, it's just to get everybody to be able to learn and to be the best that they can be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
As Morgan, Morgan's working and she has her apartment.
Oh boy.
How for you to watch her form some independence, that has to be a great achievement.
I tell you, I think about past teachers, and I think about Kathy Meyer. And if you're listening, Kathy Meyer, you told me, no, Morgan cannot be in my classroom. And I said, yes, Kathy, she's going to be in your classroom and you're going to teach her. And then when we see that she was advancing and she was catching on, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool, And then you don't know what they're going to do when they grow up. And I can tell you that Morgan has totally over exceeded any of my expectations because she was sick for so long with her heart condition, which she's totally fine now, except that she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which we don't know where that came from, but she has to take care of that herself because I'm not going to be here forever. So she totally amazes me with the fact that she can understand when she feels bad. She can understand when her Dexcom tells her that she needs a snack. She has to give herself a shot. We're looking at possibly, would she be a candidate for a pump? And I'm like, who would have thought that little baby that was so sick could do all of this? And I know Kathy Meyer would say, I think you're pushing her a little too hard. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know.
I'm gonna
keep pushing, and it's working. So I think, parents just don't underestimate because we don't know what's in their brains. We don't know. And so if you can just keep giving them the tools that they need to make them the best they can be. And even for Morgan now, she wanted to get a job. And I said, well, you're going to get a job, but you're going to have to ride the bus because I'm not taking you. Oh. And I'm like, and when you're on the bus, then you can't fall asleep because the bus driver's not going to wake you up like Bill Ernst used to do when he would take her to school. I said, no, you're an adult. You have to act like an adult. And so I just don't give her any slack, really. I just say, this is how it's going to be. And if you can't do it, well, pray about it and we'll come back next week and see what we can do. But yeah, she's definitely, she's flown on a plane by herself. I don't know what I was thinking. Put her on a plane to go to Georgia to meet her friend who also had Down syndrome. It was wrong, but I did it.
But you did it, and she did it.
She did it, and
she's safe.
And she came back to me. Happy day. Happy day.
But she did it, and I think that's the whole. And it's just Emmett. Like there's milestones. You're like he did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't know if it was going to happen, but he did it.
Yeah. And I think just too, we talk about our community, and we just have all of the younger community, and we want them to be where our older community is right now. But one of the things that's major impressive to us is that there are so many in our community that actually are employed. Emmett will have a job someday. Morgan has a job. And I know I said yesterday that October is National Disability Employment Month. And I want to highlight everyone that works in this community. They wait for the bus, they get on the bus, they take the bus, they go to work, they stay at work. They love to go to work, and they love getting their paycheck. Every Friday morning, Morgan prints me off for a paycheck. It's like, Mom, I got another paycheck. Isn't that amazing? You work and you get a paycheck. Yeah. And so, who would have thought, even when we've had Brian Jones on here and thinking about Trent, Trent was not supposed to do anything because that was in an era of they don't do anything. You put him in an institution, and Trent had a job and he had a life and he had a good life, and we loved on him to his last breath.
Absolutely.
That's what we want for all of our individuals.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like Trent, no matter who it is, because
everybody
kids
knows Trent.
They make a name for themselves in this community, and I love that piece of it.
Sure.
That whether Trent, it's Morgan, it's Emmett, whoever it is, they become known, and I think that is outstanding.
Well, we want them to be able to self-advocate for themselves, to be kind, fight for their rights because they have them, but, we all should advocate for ourselves,
With Emmett just being in kindergarten, but you look at the beginning years, for you, Jen, what were some of the things that you thought, okay, I'm not sure what's going on with Emmett, but I know he's not where my other kids were. So how did you kind of start to identify those things?
Eye contact was a huge thing. He would never make eye contact with us, or he, if we would try, he'd look away. The talking, he's still nonverbal, so he's never said mom. And just some of the ways that he would play, like, for example, he would like to, if I would sit him on my bed, he would sit crisscross applesauce, but he would take his legs and extend them to where he would bounce himself so high that he could stand up. And this was before he was walking. So I'm like, that is such a strange, like, how does he know to do, I don't know. He was just constantly bouncing and trying to do that. And so I kind of noticed just some different things. And it was also, I had him during COVID. And so I honestly blamed that. I'm like, well, he hasn't been socialized. He hasn't been, so I was in denial. Like, oh, they're just gonna say it's because, we've had to wear masks and he's not seen the mouth, people talking or whatever. And
if you have there's a parent out there listening and it's hard to come and say, hey, I think something's wrong. But what can you give them some advice if they're not sure what it is, they don't know what's happening, but what do they do?
Just ask. And if you have concerns, better than anyone about your child. And especially if you're a new parent, you're not supposed to know everything, and it's okay to ask. And I am a firm believer of getting the diagnosis for early intervention, because that diagnosis can get you so much, and a lot faster than if you didn't have it, like, okay, well, he's not speaking, so we need speech therapy.
Right.
And with his diagnosis, and it was a lot easier to get in to see these, people that he needs to help him have to be
you have to be their advocate when they're not at age 0 to 3. So, parents, if you think and you go to a doctor and they keep denying you or blowing you off, and there are some things like that you need to bring to their attention, and we need to get some results. When Jen said something about milestones, I just remember another part of our life that, they give you the baby book when you have your first baby. I don't know, do they get baby books anymore? I don't know.
What to expect when you're expecting.
What to expect when you're expecting, and then your baby book, and then there's pages in there that says, when did they first talk, or when did they get their first tooth. And I just remember that I only got maybe, 3 or 4 pages in that, and I realized that this wasn't going to work for us. She wasn't going to do anything that this book said.
They write their own story.
They just write their own story. So, it kind of, when you said that, it kind of pinged my heart, because I remember, am I in denial? Is she really, obviously Margaret has Down syndrome, but, you do, and you have to come to accept that this is just the way they think it is. We have our own milestones, and they'll get there when they get there. And so I just wrote on her book, when she had her last heart surgery, I just wrote stress, and I shut the book. And I didn't need to see it anymore. Nope. I didn't need to go by that book. We had our own story to write, and by golly, we did it. And she did it.
Everybody's still writing them.
She's still writing it, yeah.
I always say I would love for 5 minutes, whether it be an autistic, a Down syndrome, ADHD, well, that is me, but to be in their mind. Like, I look at Emmett, and I'm like, I'd like to just give me 5 minutes in there to see how it fires. Because obviously it's wired. It's just wired in his own way.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you guys both for being in today.
Well, thank you.
Excited. If they have questions about the sensory bags, can they get a hold of you somehow?
Yes. I have, they can contact me at 812-527-7140, or we actually have an Emmett's Sense of Wonder Facebook page now. So you can get on there and check it out.
Stay tuned. Well, once we get things going, we'll post things on.
There's more to
come.
Still
in the works. Yeah, we're still
in the works.
My goal, because April is Autism Awareness Month, so that's kind of March and April. This is the perfect opportunity for us to kind of kick it in high gear. With all the awareness already, it's just the perfect time to throw more out there.
Throw it out there.
Yeah,
that's right.
That'd be great.
Let's teach everybody,
That'd
right?
Be great. Yep.
And then the ARC, one more time, a phone number for the ARC.
1-812-900-3789.
All right, very good.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you guys so much for being in, and there is more to come, and we're going to be along for the ride. We're excited for it. So, all right, it's 10:55 on Tree Country 1330.